everyone. I wanted to come to you today and do the presentation that I did this past fall at PennCon. I've had lots of good responses to it. It is a topic that I'm very passionate about and one that is actually currently influencing my life because I am struggling with this. So I decided to go ahead and do a recording of it and let you guys hear what it is I spoke about. So over the past 5.5 to 6 years, I've had the opportunity to go to lots of book cons over the years. I've listened to many keynote speakers at these book cons. I've listened to them talk about how to write, what to write, when to write. I've listened to them tell me their story about how they went from being whatever it is that they did to becoming an author. I've listened to them talk about plot, character arc, dialogue, all very, very, very important things to being an author. What I've never heard anyone talk about is why we write. I think it's extremely important that we know why we do something because it puts purpose behind it. And when we feel like we have purpose behind something, we have drive for it. We have ambition. We want to do our best. And as authors, we're selling a product. We are having people spend their money and their time on something, and we want it to be our best every single time. So I sat down to really consider this. Why do I write? And I also thought about all the people I've spoken to over the past 5 and 6 years, aspiring writers and writers who've been doing it for years. And 3 things kept coming back in my mind that I'd heard on a regular basis. 1, we write because we have to. 2, we write because we have been impacted or influenced by a piece of literature or an author at some point in our lives. And 3, we write because we want to impact and influence other people's lives. The first one, we write because we have to. I want to share a definition with you. This is from the Urban Dictionary. Passion is when you put more energy into something than is required to do it. It is more than just enthusiasm or excitement. Passion is an ambition that is materialized into action to put as much heart, mind, body, and soul into something as is possible. The Oxford Dictionary defines passion as strong and barely controlled emotion. To be passionate about something. As writers, we have to be passionate about our work. And I think we show that passion in the fact that we have to write. I think that this looks 2 different ways in an author's life. Their personal and their professional life. And I'm just going to share some examples of how that looks in my life. In my personal life, this have to write. For me, it's a matter of getting things out of my mind, out of just the emotions that build up inside of me. Our middle son, Jonathan, is adopted. We were there at the hospital when he was born. We went into the circumstances thinking that he was going to be a healthy child, and it turns out he had hydrocephalus. He had fluid on his brain. So he had to be taken to Children's Hospital within 20 minutes after his birth, and we get there, and obviously we are kind of in shock because we weren't expecting this. And all of a sudden we're dealing with paperwork, and they're getting him set up and taken care of, and we have to deal with the fact that he is adoption, and Children's handles their adoptions a certain way in order to protect the child's identity. So we're going through all this, and we get through all that, we finally get back to see him, and of course then a team of doctors comes and talks to us about all the stuff that's happening, and we're calling family and posting on Facebook and doing all these things, and in the midst of it, you're just trying to survive. You're just trying to get through these sudden circumstances. Well, later that night, I'm sitting beside his bassinet. Bo and I were taking turns because we didn't like to leave him. I mean, there was a nurse there, but we didn't want him to be there by himself. So Bo was sleeping, and I was sitting by his bassinet, and I had my journal and my Bible with me. And at this point, the only time that I had broken down was initially when the social worker came out of the OR and told us that something was wrong. After that, I'd held it together. So I'm sitting there, and I open my journal, and I start writing. And it was at that point that that pen hit that paper, that all those emotions that I had kept inside came out. And regardless of whether or not I had been able to have that quiet time, had I not put it on paper, I would not have dealt with those emotions. I have to write as a part of who I am. For as long as I can remember, getting my feelings out of my head, taking things and putting them into words on paper is the way that I have coped with situations in my life, the way I've dealt with whether it's joy and exciting things or pain and sorrow and anger. It is just a part of who I am. Even 37 years later, I still write in a journal. Regardless of whether I was an author or not, I always have written. And everyone that I've spoken to that is an author has said the same thing. I've always written. Whether it was poetry, songs, or just journaling or prayer journal, it is a part of who we are as a person, and we have to do it. In our professional life, I'll give you another example of what that looks like for me. I was sitting at church one Sunday, and our pastor was preaching, And he said something that resonated with me. It hit a chord. And all of a sudden I have this character in my head and this scene. And I grabbed my church bulletin and a pen and I just start writing. And I'm just furiously over here. And my pastor's preaching and I'm just writing. And Bo looks over me and he says, "What are you doing?" And I said, "I have a scene in my head and I have to get it out like now." And I knew that I wasn't going to be able to focus on anything until I had that character and that scene out of my head. And being the amazing man that he is, he reaches forward and gets one of those white envelopes that you put your money in and hands it to me because he knows I'm just going to keep writing until it is all out. I have talked to lots of my good author friends about this, and we joke that when you get something in your head, when there's a character knocking on the inside of your skull, they are not going away until you put them on paper. We have to write. The stories that happen inside our minds do not go anywhere until we get that idea out. We may not have to write the entire story, but we have to get the idea onto paper. And then when we're in the middle of a story, when we do come across a scene, we're like, oh my gosh, I gotta get that. There are times I'll be in the car and I'll record, because I can't write, so I'll record what the scene is so that when I get home I can start writing. It's a part of who we are as authors. We have to write, whether it's in our personal life and we've got to get emotions out of us and deal with situations, or it's our professional life where we create these worlds and these characters and these people that become a part of us, and we have to put them on paper. We write because we have to. The second reason we write, because we have been impacted or influenced by a piece of literature or an author at some point in our lives. I don't think that you can come to the conclusion that you want to be an author without this happening. I think at some point in every author's life, we have read something where we went, oh my gosh, I want to do this. Or we have heard somebody that we respect, an author that we've read their work, and we truly respect them and have value in their opinion, and we hear them speak, and what they say resonates with us. And all of a sudden this door is open to, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to be an author. For me, it was when I was between 8 and 10. I read a book called A Wrinkle in Time. I'm sure that you're familiar with it. This was a book that opened my eyes to the fantasy genre. Up until that point, I had read mostly Ramona Quimby books. I'm trying to think if there was anything else, really. That's pretty much all I read. I did a little of those Choose Your Own Adventure. But A Wrinkle in Time was the door for me that opened the idea of being an author. I fell in love with the characters. I realized as I read this book and these characters became my friends, even at that age, I thought, I want to write characters like this that people love. I want to do this. I want to have people read my book and go, yes. I was a very profound 8-year-old. Not really, because I didn't really think all that, but you know what I'm trying to say. That was the moment for me, was this is what I want to do. Well, the years go by, obviously, and I did become an author at that point. I got through school, got married, just going along in life. And suddenly I get a call, or actually I was visiting my family, my aunt's family, and my cousin is reading the Twilight series. And she tells me about it, and she's like, you need to read this. I was like, okay, so I read it. Well, it was, and thank you, Stephanie Myers, it was this series that opened my eyes up to the young adult paranormal genre. Up to that point, I had read Harry Potter, obviously. I had read some Anne Rice. I loved James Patterson, those kind of books. I'd never really read young adult until I read Twilight. Well, after Twilight, I devoured everything I could get my hands on as far as young adult paranormal books. Over the course of a couple years, when I had read pretty much everything there was out there, I came to this decision of, okay, I'm really kind of tired of this pattern of relationships. I wanted something different, and I just couldn't find it. Well, then I discovered self-publishing. And it was then that all that accumulation of A Wrinkle in Time, wanting to be an author, Twilight, all this reading, all of a sudden I went, I can do this. There is a possibility of this happening. And that is how my first series was birthed. And that's how I came to the conclusion to write young adult genre. It was through those books that I realized that I wasn't supposed to be a nurse. That's what I was doing before I was an author. That was not my end all. I was supposed to be an author. And I don't think I would have ever come to that conclusion had I not come across these books that began to mean so much to me, with characters that meant so much to me. We write because we have been influenced and impacted. I think I could ask any of you guys, and you could tell me a book that you feel passionate about, or an author who has really made a difference in your lives. The third reason we write, because we want to impact and influence other people's lives. One of the authors that I sent an email to requesting her input on her reasons for writing was Ray Wagner. If you have never read anything by her, you should. She's a phenomenal woman, phenomenal writer. And I'm going to read this quote to you because I get chills every time I read it. I write because I believe in the power of words to change lives. I believe that characters teach us about who we are, and through their actions help us better understand what we value. They can push us to take risks, dare us to rise to challenges, and overcome the obstacles that block our goals. Characters, through their examples, can give us courage to face our fears. Stories entertain, but they also enlighten. They shed perspective on things that matter most. They help us tap into the emotions that too often the world tells us are indicative of weakness. They normalize difficulties, and through their arc, remind us that persistence pays off. I have chills right now, and I've read that quote a million times. She captures it. Our stories are for entertainment, most definitely. There is nothing more, gratifying than to hear that somebody came home to your book after a really bad day and they opened it up and they laughed, or they cried, or they relaxed, or they got angry. Your book distracted them from whatever had been going on that day. That's a very high compliment. But then you get a letter or an email or a Facebook message from somebody who said something like, my daughter's going through cancer treatment right now, chemo, and I'm in the hospital, and I found your book, and your book has given me something I've been missing while I've been here. We write fiction novels. We write about werewolves, or we write about teenagers, or we write about people in their 30s whose lives are falling apart. We write all sorts of different things, and what we don't realize is that fiction book is going to impact somebody's life. It's going to cause something in them, whether it's a change, whether it's a new thought, whether it's a new idea. It's going to impact and influence them. I wrote a story it's been probably 7 or 8 months ago now, and in that book I wrote a scene between a mother and her son, and this is Alina and Fane, as you know, my characters, and this is about werewolves. But Fane has just been through a pretty traumatic experience, and he has nearly died, and Alina was with him. He is also mated, has a mate, and just had a child. But his mother is with them because Jackie, is his wife as well, is in this dire situation. And when he comes back, he's awake and he's alive, his mother steps back and allows him to spend time with his wife, who has also been in this critical situation. And there's a point where somebody asks her, why aren't you with your son? He's awake and he's alive. And she says, that's not my place right now. He's with his wife. Later, Fane comes and finds his mom, and he's talking to her, and he is telling her how much he loves her and cares about her. And it's at this point that Alina takes the time to help him see, as a mom, how hard it is to learn to let go. She says to him, Fane, I am so proud of you. I am proud of the man that you have become. I see such great character in you. You're a strong leader. You're a self-sacrificing person. I see the fruit of my labor as a parent, and it is so good. I see you taking a wife and moving on, and that is good and right, and it is what's supposed to happen. But because it's supposed to happen does not make it easy. It is so hard to let go. And as a mom, I'm writing this and I'm crying because I have 3 boys. And I know there's going to come a day when that's going to happen to me. Right now, guys, when I need an ego boost, I just have to walk into a room where my toddlers are, and it's like, Mama! The whole room lights up. And then I'm like, oh, let me do that again because I need another ego boost. Walk back in, Mama! It's like I wasn't just there. My boys see me as the center of their universe. And some days that can be rough because I'm sick of hearing Mama. But other days, that is just the most precious thing ever. And to know that one day, I won't be that woman anymore. There will be somebody else who takes my place, and that's okay. But that doesn't make it easy. And I wrote this scene because I felt compelled that there were mothers out there who needed to know that it's okay to feel that way. It's okay to hurt over having to let go, even though it's the right thing to do, and it's the way life is supposed to happen. But it doesn't make it easy. It doesn't mean we don't mourn the loss of that relationship. I wrote that to help, not just to entertain, but hopefully to give some mom encouragement. It encouraged me, but I really hoped that it would touch somebody else's life. We write in hopes that our words are going to give something to that person that day that they need. And it may just be a laugh, or it may be something way more profound than that. through all of this, through these 3 reasons that I sat down and thought about and talked to other people about, one thing became extremely apparent to me, and that was that the written word is very powerful. I feel like we have a responsibility to the written word. We as authors, I'm looking for a quote real quick, y'all forgive me. As authors need to remember that what we write, number one, it's documented for all time. You can take that book off the market, but guess what? Somebody's already purchased it. So it's there. It is written. And not only that, but it's going to be read by many people. And somebody will be influenced by those words. Cassandra Clare says, one must always be careful of books and what is inside them, for words have the power to change us. And I just think that is so true, especially in my own life. As being a creative person, I'm easily influenced, and I have to be very careful what I put into my mind. And because of that, I think hard when I'm writing, especially difficult scenes, that somebody else is going to be taking this into their mind. And how is it going to impact and influence their lives? And I hope that we as authors will take that as a very high responsibility, that our books are more than just fiction to people. They're a way to cope sometimes. Sometimes they are simply what gets a girl through high school. You know, I was asked recently on an interview why I write the relationships that I write, and they're definitely different than a lot of YA books. And I told her, I said, I write because I have a passion for young adult girls. I have a passion for them to know what a healthy relationship looks like. I want them to understand that there's a different formula for a relationship than maybe what they've seen on television or heard or seen in their own lives. I'm very passionate about that. And so when I'm writing my fiction books, when I'm writing about my werewolves, it's not just for their entertainment. I'm hoping that they're absorbing into their little minds that they are worth something great. And they are worth a man who will treat them with respect. He's not going to be perfect, but he's going to work at it because he loves her. And she's worth that love. That's why we write. We find those reasons, those passions inside of us, and we want to share them with other people. I hope that this has somehow encouraged you if you're an author and you've been in this place of not really wanting to write. I've been there for quite a while now. Part of it is I'm just tired. It is frustrating when you get to do what you love for a living and lose the passion for it. And I've seen other friends of mine who are authors have that problem, and it's frustrating for me, and it hurts me to see them in that position because we truly love what we do, and we want others to love it. We work hard at it because we want them to enjoy it. And so when you sit down and you are having to pull your hair out just to get 100 words written, it is very, very frustrating and very discouraging. I hope that through this and what I talked about in PinCon to the people who were there, that I can remind you of your passion for writing, remind you why you did it, so that you have a purpose behind it again, and let you know that somebody out there is reading your words, and it means a great deal to them, and it's going to impact and possibly change their lives. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to direct message me, email me, post a message on YouTube, whatever. I'm happy to interact with people. I'm always happy to share where I'm at, because sometimes we just need to know that other people are in the same boat as us so we don't feel so isolated. But happy writing, everyone. Thank you for taking your time to listen to me stumble along, and I hope you guys have a great evening.